I'm I couldn't get in any other way than this way. So normally I'd just rather kind of watch in the background because we have things going on in the background.
Yeah, the secret to that is that the broadcast has to launch before you can actually watch it. So.
Oh, so I saw your email that said you were launching, so I thought you were already.
You can only the early birds can jump in here, and then the rest of the world can now watch it.
Okay. Well, I can jump back out. I'm happy to do that. So.
No, you're fine. Stick around.
Okay. Well, I'll just mute myself so that you don't get other background noise going on. Okay.
1280. Put it on our.
So you're just seeing my picture, not the webcam, right?
That is correct.
Okay. All right. All right. Well, then I'll just mute myself and kind of stay here in the background.
Super.
Okay. Eric, did you have someone else presenting today?
No, it's just me.
Okay.
I'm going to handle that. Well, I've got Seth David in spirit.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So as people start to show up, every single time I do a hangout, it's another issue. I'll tell you.
Yeah, getting in. Well, I watched that little video clip that Seth did about getting in on the Hangouts, and he's talking about you have to follow the School of Bookkeeping.com, which I'm pretty sure I did, and that doesn't seem
to. You're not muted.
So I don't know what day is going to be better.
Diane, are you on the phone?
I'm here.
Somebody's talking in the background. I don't know who it is.
I don't think you got muted.
I'm muting my headset. That's the only microphone that I'm aware of.
So you weren't on the phone?
No. I've got my office manager is on the phone with other people, but she's on the other end of the office.
We can hear her in the background, I think. We can hear. It's weird. We can hear somebody talking.
Okay. Well, I'm sorry. Let me back out and go in the other way then. Okay.
Or just mute it.
Well, I'm muting my headset, so I don't know why you would be picking anything else up.
Oh, it must be coming in through her laptop's microphone.
Actually, I don't have a laptop. I only have a desktop.
Oh.
Okay, no worries.
Why don't I just back out and go in the normal way where I'm kind of watching through the YouTube channel?
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, we've got an audience now, Larry, so it's just you and I on live. I'm sure we'll have more people join us as they figure out.
Okay.
Starting to show up, so we're going to go ahead and get started. And
I got a question. How can you tell who and how much audience you have?
It lets me know the number of viewers down below, right under your picture, it says.
Oh, okay.
So my guess is we'll get between 10 and 20 viewers today, and it'll go from there. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen.
Okay.
And this is really cool. This is something you can do on a Mac that you cannot do on a PC very easily. Can you see that okay?
Yes.
All right. So this is my iPhone 6 Plus, and there's Dennis. We'll let him get joined before. How are you, Dennis? He likes to come in muted because he goes Mickey Mouse on us often.
Oh, the iPad, right?
Hey, Dennis, how are you?
Good. It took forever to get in.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are having trouble. There's a number of in and outs going on. Classic Google Hangout. So you guys can see my utilities on my iPhone?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
Perfect. You'll see something really cool here as I move my iPhone up and down. You see that?
Mm-hmm.
Is it shaking?
Yes.
A little bit.
Isn't that funny? Okay, so we're going to talk about a number of things today related to the iPhone, and in general, I want to show you kind of some of the basic features that the iPhone has versus Android and why I prefer it, but I'm also going to show you a little something about the other guys as well. But one of the things that I hear the absolute most of is that people that have multiple iDevices, do either one of you gentlemen have both an iPhone and an iPad? Or are you both Android? Or tell me what, Dennis, you start. What do you have?
I used to be iPhone for about 4 years. I had version 4.0 and text on it. And when iOS changed, I think to version 6 or 7, it totally hosed my phone. And so I was frustrated by the small size of the phone. So I went to a Galaxy Mega, which is a huge phone, which I like. It's not as, I mean, it's really a good device for surfing the internet and for reading Kindle books, but it's really a crappy phone in terms of, losing connections, and it's starting to kind of flake out on me, so I may need to get another phone, but I don't think I'll go back to an iPhone because I'm pretty invested in Google. Google Calendar, Hangouts, and all that kind of stuff. So I don't think I'm going to go back to the iPhone.
Okay, and Larry, what about you?
I have a Droid. I'm still thinking that I'm going to get more invested with the Google, so I wanted to stay with Droid. Plus, I have a unit that supposedly the battery lasts longer, that type of thing. So that was the main reason going that way. My wife does have an iPad or a mini iPad or whatever, but I picked it up the other day and I felt really clumsy. The grandkids get a hold of it and they're like a whiz with it, but if it's something you're not familiar with, it just seems like an odd thing.
Yeah, it's my 4-year-old actually. He's got quite a bit of experience with iPhones and iPads, and one of the really cool things, I think Dennis was having some bandwidth problems. In any event, one of the really cool things about the iPad that I love for my son is that he can buy a game or an app using this new family sharing, and what it does is he'll go into the App Store, which I have restricted both by age, and in-app purchases are shut off because those are awful. And so he'll go into the App Store, he'll find a game, and I tell him he can buy the free ones, a couple of those a day, or get the free ones, and then every once in a while I let him actually pay for one.
Sure. So
he selects the app or the game and types in his password, which he knows. He's 4 years old.
Great.
And then if he had a newer iPad Mini, then he could use his fingerprint. So
Sure.
He'll type in his password, and then on my phone it pops up and says Jackson would like to buy whatever the game is.
Okay.
And I can say decline, or I can say approve.
Right.
And then it will go ahead and bill my account accordingly if there's money involved, and and then a little ding. He waits for the ding, and then he knows that it's time. So in any event, that's a really cool feature. So let me go ahead. I'm going to bring up my screen again.
Well,
and
I think that's really great. That's because this is going to be their workplace in the future, both in school and I assume in adult life as well. So, and
I think it's very important that they learn it. So it's
right.
great that he does, and we limit his time on it, but at the same time, it's a very valuable experience.
Sure.
Okay, so what I'm going to show you, and I actually have to use the device. So this is another really cool thing, and you'll appreciate what I'm doing right now because this is how schoolofbookkeeping.com and Seth David record video on mobile devices. We have both the connections for iDevices, iPhone and iPad, and also on Android. So if you look at our Expensify course that just launched, or the Smartsheet course that just launched, we show the app this way, and on the Mac you connect to QuickTime, and then simply start a movie and share the screen. And what's really cool about Google Hangouts is it'll allow you to broadcast that particular screen itself as an app, which you're seeing here right now.
Okay.
So I'm very fond of that. And in any event, so you see my iPhone 6 Plus, and this is my typical layout. Both of my iPhones, I have a 6 and a 6 Plus, look like this. I'm going to first go in here, and I'm going to go into General Actually, I'm going to go into display. Nope, I'm going to go into general. Sorry. And I want, oh, yeah. Sometimes you kind of wish it was, there we go, auto lock. I'm going to say never, because I don't want it to shut off on us. Okay, so I'm in settings, which on the iPhone is this little icon here that you touch, and it opens up a variety of settings. So one of the things that iPhone users that are power users may or may not know about, because there's just so much. And at the same time, I want to say that while there is a lot, there's not nearly as many little bitty pieces of settings like there is on the Android. The Android is overwhelming. It's 4 different panels that have all, you know, different options for whether it's the device or general or whatever it might be. And the iPhone is, I think, a little more succinct in how it works. So it's just here in the settings page, everything you need, and that's it. So you can configure each individual app or globally. So what I'm going to talk about first is I'm going to talk about the Do Not Disturb feature. And I find this to be one of the most useful pieces that I'm not sure if it's Google that's having problems with Hangout or people are having problems, but people keep dropping in and dropping out, and so we're going to do the best we can. And there's Larry back again. Okay, so Do Not Disturb is a great feature if you want to not be bothered after a certain time at night or until a certain time in the morning. And when I say bothered, I mean you don't want the buzzes and the vibrations and the phone calls and so on and so forth. Now, one of the very, very cool features though about Do Not Disturb is that you can actually enable a couple of different features, like this one here, repeated calls. So if somebody calls me over and over again within a 3-month or a 3-minute period, the call is going to get through. So if my son needs to get a hold of me and he can't because I'm on Do Not Disturb, if he calls me twice, it will go through. In addition to that, I can allow it to still allow the calls from people that are in my favorites list. Favorites list are listed here. So these are the people that I call the most, starting with my son Jacob and my love Angela, of course Seth David, and so on and so forth. So if you're in this list, then you're in my favorites, your call will get through even during Do Not Disturb. And I can turn that off if I like. So I have it set at 11 o'clock to shut off and turn back on at 7 a.m. Now, the other thing, too, is that it only goes into silent mode if my iPhone is locked, meaning it's sitting on the side of my bed or I fell asleep on the couch, I'm not going to get interrupted. But if I have it open and I'm using it, then it still allows the calls and the texts and the buzzes and the beeps and so on and so forth to come through. It's quite ingenious. That's Do Not Disturb. Okay, this is probably the biggest issue that people have with iDevices. If you have an iPad and you have an iPhone and you use iMessage, first let me explain the difference between iMessage and just text or SMS. On an Android, you're limited to SMS. We call you the green people because on the iPhone, people that are blue, like my gal Angela, see how it's blue? And those are iMessages. Those are iPhone-specific text messages. But then if you go to somebody like, oops, oh, that's not bad. People like Seth David, they go green. So the difference is Seth is an Android user and he's sending text, and Angela is sending iMessages. So The difference there, and I'll explain it to you, is that iMessages are like instant. They're like Facebook messages. You can actually see a little ellipse when you're typing to somebody, or they're typing to you, I should say, that they're actually interacting with you, and it's real time versus text or SMS, where it sends it over the line and then it gets there eventually. And what I often find when I'm communicating with Seth over text is that he'll be responding to a message that's maybe 1 or 2 behind. And with iMessage, that doesn't happen because it's the instant you send it, the message arrives. But what's important here is that with iMessage, up until the latest version of the iOS, which is 8.2 now, we didn't have the ability to share both iMessage and SMS on our Mac. Now you're asked. Now the first thing you're probably saying is, wait a minute, you text on your Mac? Yes, this is one of the greatest features of iDevices. Whether it's an iPhone, an iPad, or a Mac, we have the messaging feature. If I send a message from my Mac to Seth David, it's the exact same thing as sending a message from my iPhone or my iPad, and they completely sync everywhere. So all messages, whether they're SMS or iMessage, can be sent from any device, and they all sync to all devices. So no matter which one you pick up, you can leave you're where you left off. However, there's a big problem that a lot of people face, and here it is. In send and receive, everybody has my phone numbers now. There are several options. Now, the top one is you can be reached at. So when somebody sends an iMessage or a text, it'll go to my iPhone 6 Plus, which is the 7779 number, my iPhone 6, which is 1785, or the School of Bookkeeping phone, and my Mac, which runs at eric@74marketing.com. So all three will receive the text message. Now, what's important here, if you want to make your life less miserable, if you've ever sent a text from your iPad using messages, and then you went over to your iPhone and somebody said, why are you sending me a text from 2 different devices, or I have 2 threads? It's because your new conversations were being started from, in this case, 74 Marketing would be my Mac. So if I selected 74 Marketing as my new conversations from whatever device, that would start a thread from that device, which is my MacBook. And if I select 7779 as the new conversations to be sent from, then they go from my iPhone 6 Plus. So here's the clincher. All of your devices can be set to be sent from, and this is what I recommend, your phone. So in this case, whether it's my Mac, my iPad, or my iPhone, everything starts new conversations from 7779. That way, you're getting one thread from me. It's coming from my phone, which makes the most sense. Are you writing my phone numbers down? Because you can. That's fine. I can see what you're. That's fine. I published them. That was pretty funny. I could see you doing that. He's like, I'm going to get that number. I'm calling him. In any event, so if you start everything from the iPhone that you use the most, everything will be consistent, and everything will come from that device, and people won't ask you, why are you sending me a message from somewhere else? Okay. Another one that is on by default, and yet today it'll pop up and warn you, but if you haven't upgraded to the latest version of the iOS software, send read receipts is on by default. Send read receipts in iMessage. Basically, I'm kidding, Steve. It's fine. You can write down my numbers all day long. I've got more of them if you'd like them. The easiest way to reach me is 888-881-8699. 888-881-8699. That's the best way to reach anybody and everything at School of Bookkeeping. So read receipts are on by default. And in iMessage, what that means is if you send a message to somebody, you instantly will get a little thing that says read as soon as they open it. Now, that's a little invasive to some people because not everybody responds to your text right away. They might read it, but they might not respond because they don't want to admit that they're awake at 2 o'clock in the morning reading your messages. So they're going to respond in the morning. But if they opened it, just like in Facebook Messenger, it's going to say, hey, I opened your message and ignored you. Okay? So turn off your read receipts if that's a concern. Another thing that's important to understand here is this text messaging forwarding. You notice it has 2 devices. What that allows you to do, and please distinguish text messaging from iMessage. Text messaging is SMS, or what is the older standard, or what is the only standard on Android. So if somebody is sending you a message from Android and you want it to show up on your Mac Messages app, you need to set up the text forwarding so that it goes to those devices. And I'll show you, in this case, it actually knows that part of my iCloud is my MacBook Pro and my iPhone 6. I have them both on, so this way they all sync together. Very, very important stuff. The rest of this, I think, most people probably won't use, so we'll leave that be. Okay, here's another one. Inside of FaceTime, there's the numbers again for you. Inside of FaceTime, we have a very similar situation. Hello, Joanne. And with FaceTime, the same thing can happen. You can set it up so that all of your FaceTime calls come into all of your devices at the same time. So when my son FaceTimes me from his mom's house, my Mac, my iPhone 6 Plus, and my iPhone 6 will all start ringing at the same time, and whichever one I answer will shut off the other one. So again, if I always want it to appear that I'm FaceTiming from the same device and not confuse people, I want to make sure that I'm using the 252779 number as my caller ID. You see, the caller ID, that makes more sense, I think, than in messages where it says send calls from. So the caller ID is always 25277779, which is my iPhone, no matter what device I use. So if I FaceTime you with my Mac right now, you're going to think I'm on my iPhone. That way you know who I am. And then as far as being reached, I want to be reached on my iPhone 6 Plus because it's the phone I always have. I don't need to be reached on FaceTime on my School of Bookkeeping phone, which is 1785, and I like to be reached on FaceTime on my Mac, which is eric@74marketing.com. Okay, that's FaceTime. Now let's talk about the phone. And the phone is also a very interesting, has an interesting feature in that one of the things that I love the most, let me think, now let's talk about this. So one of the things I love the most is this respond with text feature. And when you get a call, there's an option to answer the call, decline the call, or respond with a text, which in essence puts them into your voicemail and sends a text. These are the defaults. I just set this phone up, so I'm going to add these right now. I like to put this one on the phone with Jabberjaw, if you remember the cartoon from many years ago. May I return the call later? So what will happen is this will pop up and give me an option. I'll say decline with text, and then I can touch this, and it'll allow me to return the call later, or it'll send a text asking if I can, and then the text session starts, so they'll know that I'm not ignoring them. Or you can just ignore them and hit decline. Okay, so now I have that set up. I can add 2 more if I'd like it. You see line 2 just came in. That's pretty cool on my device. I can talk about that for you as well. Okay, there's a number of other things. One of the things, though, that I think people have the most trouble with and are frustrated with, and I'm going to help you reduce your frustration, are notifications. Notifications can drive you absolutely mad. And notifications do a lot of things on the iPhone, so you have to understand what each piece does. One of the notifications can be a pop-up in front of your face. As you just saw a moment ago with that line 2 notification, that was a top bar notification where it just slides in and slides out. It's less intrusive. There's another one right there. So that's a live notification from my phone service letting me know there's a call in voicemail. So that's less intrusive. I can continue operating. If I get a calendar pop up in a moment, it'll take over the whole screen and I have to clear it. It goes modal, so to speak, meaning I can't access what's behind it. I only do that with calendar or reminders because those are things that I want to be interrupted with. I don't want to be interrupted with everything. So in reminders, you can see they're called alerts. That means it's right in front of your face. You've got to deal with it now. You can snooze it or you can access your calendar or whatever it is you need to do, but it's going to say, hey, you've got a dentist appointment, get out of the house. A banner is, oh, by the way, you've got a call, but you can deal with it later. And then none, obviously, will not put anything on your screen. However, that's only one part of notifications. There's a lot more. So in reminders, first of all, I have allowed notifications on. You can turn it off completely. But in a lot of them, I like to turn it on. And let me show you, like FaceTime, for example. So on FaceTime, I left this on all the way so I could show you. I don't really care to see this in the notification center, which is here. These are all the notifications that have come throughout the day. I don't necessarily need to see my missed FaceTime calls there. So I'm going to go into Notification Center and just say no recent items because now I don't need to see that. Now it won't show up in notifications. I do want the badge app icon. I want it to give me a count on top of the icon of how many missed calls. That's enough for me. So that works great. Show on lock screen. I don't need to show a missed FaceTime call on the lock screen. It's not that critical. Anybody who's FaceTiming me, I'll know about soon enough, and I'll call them back. So I'm going to turn that option off as well. And then as far as the alerts go, I'm going to leave it on because it's like a phone call. And if I don't want to take the call, I'll just hit ignore. On Twitter, very similar. I do like to have these in my notification center because then I can look at all my last 5 tweets in this case. I can set it to 10 if I wish, because Twitter is a conundrum and you have to open a special app for it. So it's kind of nice to see if there's anything I need to deal with there. I do like the badge icon. I don't need sounds for Twitter, but I don't want it on my lock screen. I don't want to lock my phone and have a bunch of stuff filled up here, which you can't see right now, but as notifications come in, they start lining up here. And if they line up here and it's all tweets, then I'm not going to see the important ones. So I don't have Twitter on my lock screen. And so on. Does anybody have a question about any of this so far? Good? Okay. Notifications, that's a good one. One of the things that I guess you would argue that iPhone stole from Android is all these slide ups and slide downs and things like this. So from the top of the screen you can slide up, and from the bottom of the screen the same thing. And this gives you your instant features. So if you need to turn on your flashlight as you're walking to the trash at night, you just slide up and hit the flashlight icon on and off. I did this earlier today when I turned on my Bluetooth, or I turned off my Bluetooth so that I could get on this call so that it wouldn't be interrupting me. Turns out I didn't use it. There's also a manual do not disturb, which is the moon. And then this is something that I get a lot of people can't understand when they rotate their phone why the phone isn't actually rotating properly, and that's because they've turned the do not rotate feature on by mistake. Another cool thing about that is you can adjust your brightness right here. And if you're on an airplane, it's nothing more than going boom and hitting airplane, which I'm not going to do right now, but so you hit the airplane icon and it puts it into airplane safe mode. It's just a nice, efficient way to do things. Okay. If you have a newer iPhone 5S or higher and it has a Touch ID sensor, I strongly urge you to set that up. You simply click the Touch ID and follow the instructions. It's very efficient. You'll never type, well, except for the time when you reboot your phone, it requires you to type one time your password. But other than that, it's just touching it. So, I mean, literally, if I lock my phone, I just put my finger to it right now. I just did, and unlock it is. Wonderful. Okay, a couple other cool things. Let's talk about mail. Now, mail is something that we all use, and one of the things that's very cool about the iPhone is that it'll allow you to use any mail client relatively easily. I also have an Android and I use it a lot, but setting up Google Mail with the standard email client on my Android requires a Google search. The ports aren't right. It doesn't automatically figure it out. If you use the Gmail app, it's fine, but I do not like that one. So I have to tell you, it's frustrating. Hopefully in the new Lollipop version, which my phone is yet to get, they've fixed that. But what's nice about the iPhone is that you can set up, as you see here, iCloud, which in this case, I do not use iCloud Mail. It has no purpose for me. I like domain-based mail. And that means I want Eric at School of Bookkeeping, Eric at 74 Marketing, Eric at Snappy Help as my core mail email addresses. So I don't use iCloud with mail, but what I do use with iCloud is the calendar. That is my personal calendar. And I like having it here on iCloud because it makes my life easy to separate it from the rest of my life, which in this case, you can see my calendars: 74 Marketing, School of Bookkeeping, Snappy Help, and iCloud. And then I have a family one as well in iCloud, which is shared with my family members, Jackson and my gal Angela, which is very, very cool. Okay, so back to double-clicking the button, and I'm going back to Mail. So that's how I use iCloud. Now the rest of the iCloud settings in here in Mail are going to basically take you to the basic iCloud setup, which allows you to enable all the different features of iCloud. So you can see I have Mail off and everything else on. This works really well for me with 3 separate Google calendars. Now this is a tricky thing. People get confused with contacts. And I'm going to explain to you that I use iCloud Contacts only. Because if I put contacts into my Google School of Bookkeeping account, my Google 74 account, and my Google Snappy Help account, I'd have to manage 3 different sets of contacts. And that is absolutely a nightmare. I keep them all in iCloud. That's the only contacts I have. And if you look on the screen, you can see SOB, SFM, and Snappy Help. The only things that are enabled are Mail and calendars. Okay, so you don't need to have the contacts from each one of those if you use iCloud. It works really, really, really well. Another thing that's interesting to note, if you have Google Apps for Work, when you add an account, you would naturally think, I'm going to click on Google. But if you have a paid Google Apps for Work account, you don't have to. You can actually click on Exchange. And the reason why you would want to do that is the difference between push and pull. With Google, you're going to get IMAP. Okay, now there's an iMessage coming in from my brother, the football player. So that was a notification from the top bar, less invasive. Anyhow, going back to what I was saying is, with Google, you have to kind of open up your mail client and wait for it to refresh. With Exchange, it actually pushes email to you more rapidly. Big difference between push and pull. That's a nice feature of that service. So if you see here, fetch new data, you'll see there's fetch, which is pull, push, which iCloud is by default, and then push on SOB and SFM. I should be able to go. So Snappy Help I set up on Google. See how it says fetch? And School of Bookkeeping and 74 Marketing I set up on push. I did this on purpose to test the difference. And then with fetch, it'll go out and fetch on a regular basis by schedule. I have it set to manually, because the difference between push and fetch is, while push will send you emails, fetch is going out looking for emails, but it's using battery life. So every 15 minutes, fetching is going to eventually wear out your battery faster than it would if not. And another big one, signatures. This is huge. All accounts versus per account. If you have multiple email addresses, this is how you keep this really, really easy With Snappy Help, School of Bookkeeping, and 74 Marketing, I have 3 completely separate signatures that will automatically appear when I choose the appropriate send from in my mail client. And I think probably best we go right there, right now, and show you how that works. So I'm going to open up a new message, and you can see it by default chose Snappy Help. I can touch on the from and choose School of Bookkeeping and see how it changed my signature. Pretty cool. So that's why you want to set up individual signatures per account. Get it? Okay. There's a couple of other little things that are kind of cool. The show an app switcher on contacts is basically you can see the names of the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. These are the last people that I called, and that is here. If I don't want those, then I can say not on recents, and of course they're still there. Yeah, it's phone favorites, sorry. So if I don't want those there, and quite frankly I don't want them there, so I'm glad they're gone. Okay, so that's another cool little feature. They did solve the time zone problem in this latest release, so if anybody was experiencing any weird problems before, that's gone. I like to sync all events. I just set this phone up from scratch rather than bringing in a backup, so I'm still configuring, as you can see. Default calendar, I'm actually going to make that School of Bookkeeping, I'm sorry, my Eric Greenspan account, because that's the one I use the most. And what else? Default alert times, obviously very handy. So this isn't set up right now, and it's, again, this is something you need to do, because if you don't, you're not going to know a day before that it's somebody's birthday. And in an event, 30 minutes before, and all-day events 1 day before. So now I will be notified via notifications, and that's again in notifications and settings for calendar, of the events that are on my calendar. And sometimes when these aren't on, I miss appointments. I get so busy and so focused, I wait for my alerts. If my alerts don't pop up, I move on. Okay, so that's mail, contacts, and calendars. Good stuff. In terms of iCloud Photo Library, this is a lot. There's been a lot of talk about this, and the latest iOS has the beta of the photo library. And what's really important here is that you know that in the beta version of the latest Mac OS X, you now have the Photos app, which means within the next month we'll have that, and the problem of getting your photos from your phone using iPhoto or however you were doing it before will be gone. So, but this is really cool, and this is really important. What iCloud Photo Library did for iPhone is it basically said, look, you take a picture, it's in iCloud seconds later, which means you can access it from any other device, and you never have to worry about losing your photos. Every single photo you take automatically in iCloud, and for $3.99 a month you get 20 gigabytes, and you just never really have to worry about making copies or in any way, shape, or form having to have a duplicate set of photos. I used to Dropbox all my photos off of my iPhone and then copy them into directories. I simply don't do it anymore. I have 3,700 photos in iCloud since this launched. I take a lot of pictures, as most of us do. And what's really cool about this, when you turn it on and it starts pushing all of your photos up, is optimized iPhone storage is basically going to keep a slimmed down version, like a thumbnail, on your phone, but keep the actual version up in iCloud so it's not using up your space on the disk. So if you have a 16 gig phone, this matters. I've solved a lot of problems for people who have taken their iPhones and added so many photos that they couldn't even access or update to the next iOS. They had to delete photos or download them, hopefully, before they could do that. Well, with optimized phone storage, that's not going to happen with iCloud Photo Library because now everything's up in the cloud. If you want to download and keep the originals on your phone and have a copy up above, that's great. Okay, the rest of this is just kind of fun stuff. HDR is a cool thing if you want to keep the normal photo when you take an HDR picture, which just means it's a ridiculously high res. You can choose that there. Okay, I think that covers most of the stuff in settings that most people have problems with. There is also, I want to distinguish the difference between iCloud and iTunes/App Store. The settings for iCloud I showed you earlier were for your mail and photo library and contacts and keychain. By the way, let me tell you what keychain is. This is really cool. So you Windows users use things like LastPass or First Password or whatever it's called, and that basically carries your passwords across devices for you and stores them. Well, with Mac and iOS and OS X, keychain is built into all of them. So when we save when we enter a username and a password on a website on our iPhone, the next time we go to our iPad or our MacBook or other iPhone, those are stored in keychain and they're automatically there. That saves us a lot of time, and let me show you what I mean by that. If I open up School of Bookkeeping to log into it, which I do very, very often, I can type in the username and password, but I can also just touch inside of here and hit autofill, and then, of course, solve the math problem perfectly, and I can log into School of Bookkeeping without having to type a thing other than a single digit. And that's pretty darn cool. This is the back end. So same kind of thing. So now if I go to the front end, I'm logged in, and I can go visit and view all the different courses. So that's a very, very cool and useful tool. Okay. So going back to settings, double-click on my home button, and I'm back to settings. And please make sure your backups are set up. If your iCloud backup is not set up and you're not backing up automatically and you lose your iPhone or it breaks, you're going to really be frustrated and versus elated. If you have an iCloud backup and it automatically backs up, you're going to walk into the Apple Store with a broken iPhone and say, my phone's broke. They're going to say, okay, here's a new one. Log into iCloud. And everything is there. Everything. Just like that. You don't even have to think about it. It's wonderful. Every signature, every contact, every photo, every setting, everything. You open up the new iPhone, restore from your iCloud backup. In 15, 20 minutes, everything's done depending upon your connection, and you're right back where you left off. Brilliant. Please don't forget to set that up. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about some really cool apps. I know people love this kind of stuff. If you, first of all, I hope you've heard of Waze. Waze is probably the coolest app ever. Forget about Google Maps. Forget about Apple Maps. Please use Waze. I'm not logged into this one, I don't think. So yeah, I just added it to this device. Again, this is a new phone. For those of you that haven't gotten my phone number yet. So now they're sending me a 4-digit code, which I'm going to touch it. See the notification at the top, how I was able to touch on it? Now I'm back. What is it, 1838? Import from Facebook. Oh, you know what? I think I'm creating a new one. Did I go too fast? Perfect. And I'm just going to skip that. Okay, here it is asking me about notifications. Remember we talked about that earlier? So Waze would like to send you notifications. I don't want them. I'll go deal with it later. So why is Waze so great? let's say I'm going to drive to a particular location, and I'm not obviously in the car right now, but if I was going to go somewhere, let's say I was going to go to LAX, arrivals is fine, and I'm going to click go. Watch this. This is why Waze is so valuable. Forget about how cool it is. Forget about it getting you to where you want to go. This is the part that matters the most. See them? Those are police officers. What's happening here, Waze is a social network system, probably the most dangerous thing ever invented, because people are driving, and if they see a cop, they go to here, they click on police, visible, type your details, send, and everybody else that's driving will see that there's a cop there. Now, dangerous if you're driving, but useful if you're the recipient. When you get to the police officer, if he's there, it pops up and says, is he there, yes or no? You say yes, it confirms it, so now it's even more reliable. If he's not there, you click no, or touch no, and the next person that comes along doesn't have to worry about it, and they speed up a little bit, right? Very, very cool. You also know where your friends are driving. There's my gal Angela. She left here just a little while ago. She's actually driving back to her home in Westlake to work. I can touch her and say beep, beep, and she just got a notification on her phone while she's driving. Pretty cool stuff. The social map. It's another cool app that you guys would love. Not this one here in the bottom left corner. My least favorite app in the world, Google+. Okay, let's look at Yammer. So School of Bookkeeping just launched Yammer both internally and externally. You've all been invited, and if not, email eric@schoolofbookkeeping.com and I'll invite you to our external Abo on SOB. It's the same thing as Abo on Facebook, but it's on Yammer instead, which works a lot like the groups in Facebook, but without the distractions of the rest of Facebook. So if you're a corporate entity and you want to be able to communicate within your team and not have people tooling around on Facebook all day to do it, you use Yammer. It's free for the regular version, and the enterprise version is included a license with every Office 365 subscription, or you can pay $3 per person. It's awesome. So at School of Bookkeeping, we now have Yammer for you, Abo on SOB. That's our free external network, and we have one internally for our faculty and our students to go into discussion groups. I love this tool, and the reason why I'm showing you is this is the iPhone app. And there's a couple of really cool features here that are important, and one of them is My Networks. So as I mentioned earlier, there's Abo on SOB, which is an external network, and there's schoolofbookkeeping.com, which is internal. Now, schoolofbookkeeping.com, you must have a schoolofbookkeeping.com email address to access it, so it's secure. Now, what you see on the right are the number of posts that are sitting on My Networks right now. So there's 6 comments on Abo on SOB and 3 on schoolofbookkeeping.com. And because these messages are private, I can't go in there. Very, very cool feature. I recommend you guys look into Yammer right away. Love it. Are you familiar with Wunderlist? Seth David's favorite app in the world lately. By the way, if you guys don't know Seth that well, those of you that do will appreciate what I'm about to say, but Seth actually is looking for somebody to build him an app to keep track of all of his apps. Check out Wunderlist. I'm not going to give you a demo on it, but it's a really cool product for keeping lists, and you can use it as a simple project management tool. If you want a CRM to track leads, prospects, that's really fun and efficient, here's Pipedrive. I'm going to show you our leads. These are all the companies that we want to join the schoolofbookkeeping.com custom course development program. Basically, every company out there that has a decent product, we're talking to. Worth about $1 million in revenue to us, as you can see above, and we can move them from idea to contact to awaiting presentation to in negotiation cold to Seth, create a video so we can stimulate them to buy, to in negotiation hot, and then expected to close this month, and so on and so forth. That's all you get to see of that. Check out Pipedrive. It's awesome. All right, here's another really cool one. This is my favorite app of all of them. I have this running on my computer and on my phone all the time. Right now, there are 9 people on the schoolofbookkeeping.com website, and that's where they are. Somebody just watched the Expensify course overview. Somebody was interested in mastering Microsoft Excel. Somebody went to the Thursday Morning Hangout page. And my favorite, register. Somebody's signing up. It also tells you the time of your server and how much a user is waiting to access your site. 94 milliseconds and 2 seconds is record-breaking. Very cool app. I have it for all 5 websites that we manage on a day-to-day basis. Very cool. It's called ChartBee. All right. Now here is something really peculiar. This has got to be because what's going on with this device. But if you notice, my phone says 9:41 a.m. It's 9:55. It's got to be because of the fact that I'm displaying it, or it's a bug. Because I went into time, set automatically. Time zone is Cupertino. Really peculiar. I got to figure that one out. It's not updating. Must be just a refresh problem, or it's a bug in this new software. Thanks for helping me find that. Anyhow, that's a funny little thing. Okay, and last, we're not going to get to the Android, but I do want you to see this awful app that is taunting me, haunting me, keeping me awake at night. I open it up, I click Start Pairing, but no matter how hard I try, I don't have an Apple Watch, nor does anybody else, other than maybe Tim himself. It's begging me to buy one. I'm not spending 17 grand, but I am definitely getting an Apple Watch. I want to see what it's all about. It looks pretty darn cool. All right, guys, any questions before we close up shop? You have any Android questions for me? I hear someone. Here we go. Larry, I know you got one.
Thank you for the presentation. Maybe some other time we'll do Android.
You know, I didn't realize this would take so long. I think what I'll do next time is I'll do a full-blown Android overview.
I do have one quick question. How are you able to show your phone on the Hangout?
So my phone is connected to my Mac.
Oh.
And I run QuickTime. Let me see if I can show you my other window rather than I can demonstrate that for you. So if I go to desktop 1, so now you can see there's an app running on my desktop 1.
Oh, yeah.
And that app is mirroring whatever happens on my iPhone, which inevitably, it's going to be 9:41, I think, forever. I'm guessing because I'm on QuickTime and it's emulating, that's why the time isn't updating. But in any event, whatever is on this screen in QuickTime by connecting, so I'll show you how that works. It's actually quite cool. So I'll cancel that. I'll go to QuickTime, File New Movie Recording.
That is very clever, I got to say
I
that.
just pick iPhone 6. And for that matter, let me see if I unlock my other phone, if it'll bring up the 6. Doesn't appear to. File. Let's close this one.
I heard on the morning news the Chinese have a knockoff for the for the Apple Watch. They're out already.
Yeah, actually, hold on a second. I'll show it to you.
$38 or something like that.
Yeah, I'll show it to you. Here it is. That's my dad. He would have been 79 today. There's the Apple Watch for you. Can you see that okay? Or is it on the wrong screen? There you go. There's the Apple Watch.
All right.
That is an apple carved into a watch. Those are appearing on Facebook, left, right. All right, guys, I'm going to run. I appreciate your time today. Obviously, this will be brought up on our YouTube channel, and you'll be able to watch it there. So please do so if you didn't catch it or if you want to review it. And if you need anything else, just email eric@schoolofbookkeeping.com. Happy to help. Thanks so much for stopping by. And we will see you tomorrow morning, Bill.com, on the Friday Morning Hangout. That one's at 8 a.m. PST, noon Eastern time. I'm sorry, 11 a.m. Eastern time, snowbirds. So check out Seth David and Bill.com tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. PST. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.